Then we can start. I'm not going to wait for other people because I get a little irritated when people show up late or don't show up at all, which is happening on this committee. I know that it's not nearly as exciting as zoning and planning.
You got to get some controversy going, Allison.
That's right.
Take up some tougher subjects.
Exactly. Well, we have, discussions on stormwater and we have our climate action plan discussion tonight too. Just a quick update, but
which are fascinating to some of us,
Yeah. So I'm going to get started since we have a quorum now with Councillor Kalis here, vice chair of the committee. So let me get started. My name's Allison Leary, City Councilor at Large from Ward 1 and Chair of Public Facilities. Welcome. I'm going to introduce members of the committee who are here. That includes Councillor Andrea Kelly at Large from Ward 3, Councillor Deb Crossley at Large from Ward 5, and Councillor David Kalis at Large from Ward 8 and Vice Chair of the committee. And joining us this evening is Josh Morse, our Commissioner of Public Buildings. We also have Bill Ferguson from our sustainability team and City Engineer Lou Taverna. And I can let Lou introduce any other staff that he has tonight. And believe let me go on to our first item. It's Wednesday, June 21st. This is a regularly scheduled item, a meeting of public facilities. First item is a public hearing. So I will be taking any comments from the public this evening. This is 237-23, Eversource Energy petitioning for a grant of location to install approximately 154 feet of conduit. And this is at 323 Nevada Street in Ward 1, right at the corner of Watertown Street and Nevada Street. I believe Joanne is here to talk about this.
Good evening, I am here.
Okay, hello.
Thank you, but it is just as you said, Eversource is seeking a grant location to install approximately 154 feet of conduit into Nevada Street, and that is to provide service to 323 Nevada Street.
Is 323, is that anything, that's an existing building, right?
Yeah, it's a new home.
Oh, it's a new home.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it existed before, but it was renovated.
Okay, because I didn't notice any brand new home going in there. Okay, thank you, Joanne. So are there any questions from the committee? I'm not seeing any hands up. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Please raise your virtual hand by going to reactions and choosing raise hand, or you can wave frantically into the camera. There's only 15 people here today. I am not seeing any hands up, so I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, so motion made by Councillor Kalis. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the public hearing is closed. So without any questions, all those in favor of approval of the grant of location on Nevada Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any abstentions or any nays? Okay, thank you, Joanne. The item passes.
Thank you.
Next is 211-23, and this is President Albright appointing John Sloat of 117 Garland Road, Newton Center, to the Citizens Commission on Energy for a term of office to expire June 5th, 2026. Mr. Sloat, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Allison.
Yes, good to see you. I was just at Garland Road, what, 2 weeks ago for your sustainability fair. It was really nice.
Great. We had a pretty good turnout and lots of interest from people who are asking very specific questions about how to go green.
Yes, yes. And considering it was kind of a rainy day, it was a good turnout.
Yeah, that's true.
So, John, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit more about yourself and why you're interested on participating as on the Citizens Commission on Energy.
Sure. Well, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I've been involved in the sustainability movement for quite a long time. In fact, when I was still in high school, I started the first recycling program in the city of White Plains, New York. That was in 1970. So this is something that's really been in my heart for a long time. In the 80s, I became a solar engineer, and I spent a considerable amount of time not only designing and installing solar systems, but publishing technical papers in various national and international journals. So I was learning the technology by doing it, because that's kind of how you had to learn everything. And I felt very, I think, privileged to be able to have the combination of doing sort of blue skies research and deep thinking engineering work on the one hand, but I was also the guy that had to crawl up on the rooftops and understand how these installations had to work. So I understand the practical side as well as the theoretical side, I think. And I bring those interests in the environment and alternate energy to the commission. I've already been sitting with them to listen to what the issues are and what kinds of things we can be working on together. I've been spending some time with Leora Silks, the Newton Energy coach, to sort of help her understand some of the technology, help her with marketing programs, such as what we did in Garland Road a few weeks ago, but there are many others that we've worked on as well. And I've been spending time with people like Bill Ferguson. Bill, good to see you. Also, just learning about, what the issues really are, the practical things that it's going to take to help us go green. So I'm very committed to this, have been for a long time, and I'm really pleased and honored to have the opportunity to contribute.
Thank you, John. And I'm very grateful for your willingness to serve on that commission. It's such a critical commission, and it's done so much already to further our climate goals. So I'll see if there's any questions from anyone in the committee. I see Councillor Crossley has her hand up.
Yes, I'm thrilled that you're joining the Energy Commission. A little bit wistful and jealous from my own days on the commission, and the sort of, I mean, Helena and I served together, but most everybody else is new since that time, and the expertise that has amassed in that group is astonishing. That you are all Newton citizens, and you all bring just such a wealth of talent to the group. I don't know where you live, but I'd be pleased to move your appointment unless
Ward 6.
he lives.
Andrea knows.
Okay, never mind.
Let's fight over John.
Yeah, I know. I'm just so thrilled. I'm so thrilled with the work of the Energy Commission. I understand they've been hugely helpful with Bill working on the Birdo project, which we're going to get an update on this in late July in zoning and planning. And yeah, I don't know, you might want to, unless you're totally aware already of everything the city is doing in municipal energy efficiency, you might want to stick around and hear Bill's presentation to us tonight, giving us an update on all of those things. But thank you so much.
I appreciate that. And first of all, I intended to stay anyway. When I get an opportunity here, what Bill's talking about, I'll take it for sure. And your point about the commission, I would say that not only are the folks really incredibly skilled, I'm quite humbled by the range of skills they bring. The incredible diversity of experience, all with the same idea of, we know we can do better, we've got to think long term. Yeah. And I know how hard that is to do with the busyness that we all have. So we hope we can provide some long-term thinking that can be consumed by the council in a productive way.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say we've been joined by Councillor Vicky Danberg at large from Ward 6. I see Andrea Kelly has her hand up, and then Vicky, you're next. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm very impressed by John's knowledge and expertise in this area, and also by his very civil and collaborative manner, which I think is always appreciated in people who want to serve on committees, and I wholeheartedly approve it. However, I'm pretty sure that Vicky Danberg will want to make the motion because she is from his ward, and if she weren't here, I would have been happy to, but I will definitely let Vicky have the honors of moving that motion on John Sloat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Danberg.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and my fellow councillor from Ward 3 and 5 for all of the remarks that you've just made. I want to second everything that you've said. Thank you very much, Joe, for being willing to serve. And without further ado, I would like to move your approval. I will move Mr. Secura's approval.
Okay, thank you. I also just want to recognize Councillor Lenny Gentile has joined us this evening as well. Okay, so regarding this item, John K. Sloat, the Citizens Commission on Energy, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, that is unanimous. And I'm not, actually, I have to check up. Councillor Gentile, were you able to vote on this item?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your voice. I wanted to make sure you were here for the vote or the
Oh, yes,
discussion.
yes, in favor.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's 5-0. Okay, we have one other appointment that I'm looking forward to. And thank you, Mr. Sloat. And you're going to stay for some of the discussion, correct? Great. Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
This is 181-23. Her Honor the Mayor appointing Vincent McKay of Canterbury Road to the Sustainable Materials Management Commission for a term of office to expire June 12th, 2026. Mr. McKay, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about you and why you would like to serve on the Sustainable Materials Management Commission.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to participate in my city in this way. Unlike John, which is more glamorous, I think the energy side is a little more glamorous than the waste disposal side of things. But we're kind of down in the down and dirty as you would, but as you can imagine. But this has been a long time passion of mine, even through my whole career as a professional educator, running an environmental club as a new teacher at the high school where I worked, and I'm still really engaged in coming up with sustainable ideas for waste disposal, which is, of course, is the main focus of the commission's work, but not the sole one. But and so right up to the present, in fact, you can't see this, but this weekend I was in San Diego for my youngest kid's graduation from university, and San Diego is a photograph I took on the street. They're rolling out citywide organics pickup in the city of San Diego, and they're passing out these big toter barrels with they thoughtfully strapped on countertop plastic tubs for every homeowner in the city, and it's a big city. So
right,
very inspiring to see that. So anyway, this is long-term interest of mine. I have a lot of I learned a ton a couple of years ago working as a research fellow for a year with the Conservation Law Foundation in this area. The Zero Waste Team was the group I worked with, and a lot of my research in that at that time was focused on really quantifying in New England, state by state, city by city, town by town, disposal practices. So I really have a real strong background and developed a really strong background in sort of the data around that, and so I bring that kind of expertise, sort of the waste interest, and a real commitment to building sustainability. I think our city, we can really build on what we've done here now to get even a greater edge in terms of furthering our leadership as a city in terms of sustainable waste practices. And there's some real, I got to know Juanita Trabert a little in the part of my work. She's a really awesome staff member in the commission. I have a lot of respect for her work and what the team there has been able to do. And I feel like I can make a contribution in that way. And just the only other thing I'd add is that I have a lot of experience working in city government. 10 years in the city of Somerville as an assistant superintendent of schools there, and a great mayor, a strong mayor like here in Joe Curtatone, and we had just a really great team, and really I got a really inside view of how things get done in terms of making good positive change and data-driven change in citywide that will last and that will make sense for the city. So I bring that background as well. So anyway, thank you for having me here tonight.
Yeah.
Or to rolling up my sleeves even more.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Anyone who was on the zero waste team with CLF is, you must have known Kirsty Petchy.
Yeah, before she left, she
before she le-
headed up the group. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of the things that's close to my heart as well. I often attend the SMMC meeting, so I'm sure I'll be seeing you there. And I appreciate
Awesome.
you stepping up and bringing your
Yeah.
expertise to the table.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you. So are there any questions from the committee? I see Counselor Kelly.
It's not really a question. I don't know Mr. McKay, but I'm so impressed to think that there are people like you with the breadth and experience and still willing to step up. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you and hear from you more. I love the Somerville example. I love that you've worked with Leora and Juanita well here, and I'm excited to support this. So welcome, assuming you get voted in.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Counselor Kelly. Counselor Kalis.
Oh, you can go to Counselor Crossley.
Oh, sorry, Counselor Crossley. Counselor Crossley first and then Counselor Kalis.
Okay, well, Mr. McKay, I don't know how I don't know you well. You live near me.
Yeah.
Ward 5.
Yeah.
I too am very impressed, ditto to everything Counselor Kelly said. And also, you know, that you have the background you have and you still want to talk trash, you know. So thank you very much, and I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Kalis, do you still?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So Counselor Crossley has moved approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, thank you, Mr. McKay. We appreciate you stepping up, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
All right, great. Thank you, Allison.
Okay.
Take care.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy the rest of your evening and good meeting. Wishing you a good meeting. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our next item is 21723. Her Honor, the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend the sum of $1 million from both the Water and Sewer Fund to complete the Wash Bay project at the Craft Street, and the total cost will be $1.5 million, which includes the $500,000 the City Council approved in 2018. I believe, Josh, are you presenting this, Mr. Morse?
I am, yes.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much. So I'll be brief, but I can go into as much detail as you want. This is, I'm sure, fresh of mind because it was a short 5 years ago that the City Council approved docket item 536-18 for $500,000 for the Wash Bay project. This is the DPW Wash Bay over at the Craft Street Garage. You know, very briefly, the project was actually introduced and the budget was set in 2014 when it was submitted into the FY16 to 20 CIP, as defined as the refurbishment of the Craft Street vehicle wash bay with automated vehicle wash system, including capture, recycle, wash water. So the reason I point that out is A, the time schedule, but B, the scope of work was very isolated to just the replacement of the wash equipment itself. Again, in 2018, DPW came in and requested the funds, the $500,000. We started over the course of 2019, we did the design work and quickly started to realize that we were going to need to slow down and look at the project from a little larger viewpoint. Mainly, a lot of the utilities, as we started to do the subsurface investigations, the water feeds, or not water feeds, but the stormwater and sewer feeds, it needed to be replaced. The electrical service for the building needed to be replaced unless we were going to continue to use gas, which we did not want to. So what we ended up doing is we paused in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020 as a result of COVID, like almost all the rest of our projects. And then we started up again shortly after we got through the bulk of COVID and, you know, had a better financial footing, wrapped up our design work, solicited proposals, put the project out to bid, solicited proposals. And ultimately the low bid was approximately $1.5 million total project budget. That breakdown is in your backup, along with kind of an explanation of the elements that I just went through. I have all the plans and specifications in front of me. I'm not sure anybody really wants to get into that level of detail, but this is at its core, there's very little building work to be done. It's all systems within the building to help support DPW's operations. And just as a reminder, the primary goal here is twofold. One is we need to comply with NIPDES and intercept any contaminated water. So that's one major element that we're trying to achieve here, that we have to achieve. And then the other is to prolong and extend the life of our fleet and equipment. This wash bay, when fully functional, will allow DPW to not only wash vehicles, which extends their life, but also apply undercarriage treatments to protect against corrosion from salt, which obviously is quite important for a lot of the equipment and large vehicles that DPW handles on a day-to-day basis. With that, I am happy to answer any questions that people may have. These are actual numbers. So the backup you see is that's the hard number. So at this point, it's just a question of whether or not we want to move forward with the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morse. I remember we did approve 500,000 back in 2018 for this project, right? Did we not know at the time that we were gonna need all this extra work?
We did not. So when we requested the 500,000, that was for both design and construction. We got the design money and started doing our subsurface investigations and getting into the building more. It's when we started to realize that there was going to be significantly more work than what we originally anticipated. Nonetheless, had to be done, but we did realize that we needed to complete more work right around the 2019 period.
Okay, so was that just quite an unexpected substantial increase in costs?
Well, I would say that it's twofold. So there were a few things. One, we've seen obviously unprecedented escalation over the past 3 years, and then escalation, kind of normal escalation prior to that. Specifically, some of the areas that have been hardest hit from an escalation standpoint are your metals, your copper, your steel, your electrical, mechanical, plumbing. So all of the things that we're doing in this project are the areas in which the industry saw some of the largest increases from an escalation standpoint. You couple that with the expanded scope that was not initially identified when the project was put together back in 2014, and between that and just time, you get a more expensive project.
Yeah, quite a lot more. I see Councillor Crossley's hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Your letter quite clearly explains this. I just wonder, after all these years, as I'm not getting a visual in my mind on the building, what's the condition of the building that this is in? I mean, you're replacing all these systems, but yeah.
Yep. Cassidy, if you can allow me to share screen, I'll quickly share an image of the building just to refresh people's memories.
Should be all set.
Thank you. So this is the building. It's nothing terribly impressive, yet also in very good shape. It's a small box. It's all masonry with a small membrane roof on top. The building is in good shape inside and out. The bones are good. There's really no masonry work to do. At most, maybe we do a light soap and water cleanup of the exterior masonry. But beyond that, it's ready to rock. It's turnkey.
Okay, thank you. Then I have no further questions. Seems like a necessary, an unfortunate, necessary work. Just things get old and fall apart.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor Kalis.
Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Morse, you don't have to answer. You can answer these in finance, but number one, where's the million coming from to be able to cover this? And then number two, does the million include 200,000 of contingency? It looks like it does. So could it just be 800,000 actually?
So
In the end.
the answer to the first question is that the $1 million is going to come split between water and sewer. Sewer funds obviously, well, I think obviously, are being driven by the NIPD's requirements here, as well as the fact that the building or the vehicles that we're going to be servicing and cleaning with this wash bay, a lot of those will be sewer vehicles, which then of course help maintain the sewer infrastructure. And it's not, I should say, it's not just vehicles, it's all the equipment, your front end loaders, your backhoes, all of that equipment gets washed down here. Then you have the water funds, which is a combination of the water vehicles that are going to be maintained similar to sewer, and water equipment that will be maintained similar to sewer, but also our ability to reduce our water usage through the use of a more efficient wash bay system. So it will reduce our water consumption. And then your question about the contingency, we would need the contingency as part of the project. But I think what you're getting at is that would we be exposed to the full $1 million? Not most likely not. Our department has a pretty good track record of turning back a very large amount of our contingency. Wouldn't want to go into it without it, but happily we'll turn it back if we don't need it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kalis. Councillor Crossley, your hand is still up. Did you have another question or? Okay. So I don't see any further questions from the committee. Is there a motion to approve?
So
Yes.
moved.
Go ahead.
Councillor Danberg made a motion to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Are there any abstentions? Are there any nays? Okay, that's unanimous. Councillor Kelly has left, so she is not voting. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. Our next item is 2/18/23. Her Honor the Mayor requesting the approval of the taking of temporary construction easements for the Commonwealth Avenue Carriageway construction project in Auburndale. Mr. Taverna, are you kicking
Yeah,
this item off?
Yes, I'll kick it off. I get
Okay.
Andrew Lee from Law Department is here as well to assist in some answers to questions you may have. But I'll kick it off. Again, Lou Taverna, City Engineer. This is the taking of temporary easements for the Commonwealth Avenue Carriageway project, which is the city's project from the Marriott Hotel to Higgins Avenue, Higgins Avenue, not the other project, not the replacement of the Route 30 bridge over the Turnpike project that includes the roundabout. So that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the city's project. Because we're teaming with Mass DOT and federal funds are being used, we have to take temporary easements along just about each property of the work construction zone, so that the contractor can perform his work. He can install sidewalk, install ADA ramps, install curbing along the perimeter of the project. Normally in a city-funded project, we would simply take rights of entry, which is essentially like a license agreement. But in this case, we have to take temporary easements. The temporary easements, they are required by Mass DOT to be 3 years. So we're essentially renting the easement land for 3 years. And at the end of the project, the abutters get the temporary easement back as we no longer need it. The temporary easement plan, the entire plan, should it be approved tonight and should it be approved at the full board, I believe July 10th, will be filed with the Registry of Deeds. And then the project, the Mass DOT project can proceed with their bidding and contract award. So there's I think there's 18 or so properties that easements are required. The easements, they vary. They're along the frontage. They're about 1 or 2 feet wide, or they vary sometimes, but that's what it is. It's like taking a 1 to 2 foot wide strip in front of the abutting property's land so the contractor can build the project. So that's my presentation. Andrew, you want to add anything to this, Andrew? Or?
I think the city engineer covered most of it with regards to why we're doing it this way. Again, these are federal requirements. The city really has no other choice in these circumstances, so we are taking of these temporary easements just for 3 years.
Okay, and I assume that all the abutters and the people impacted have been notified by the city about this?
Yes, they've been notified at least on 3 occasions, 3 mailings, one out to them certified mail regarding the project, regarding the taking of the temporary easements. So they have been notified. I believe the Cassidy did notify him of tonight's meeting. Should they want to, listen in, but I don't think that any abutters are on the meeting tonight. I don't see any anyway. So they were notified. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Councillor Gentile.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there anybody here from the planning department this evening?
I don't believe so.
All right, so my first question, actually, it's really not fair to Lou or Andrew because, the planning department was the one that was driving this whole project, and this is the project that got pretty controversial over, the light and the retention of the light. So we had a lot of meetings. There were a lot of meetings within the ward, and there were a lot of meetings with the full council prior to this getting approved. So my initial question was, we got a lot of information on this project, but no one from planning mentioned anything about needing any easements. And I don't understand why there was that oversight, because this isn't a small detail necessarily. So I'm not going to ask Lou about it or Andrew, because this is the first time that they have really been to a meeting on this subject, so it's not fair for me to ask them. But my second question is, I believe I read one of the notices, and I think that the homeowners can request some kind of compensation. Did I see that in one of the letters for the easement?
That should have been referenced in all of the letters, Councilor Gentile, where it's one of the federal requirements where we have to be very explicit and actually send the materials that were promulgated by Mass DOT as the agent for the federal funds, explicitly stating that they are entitled to the compensation. And then subsequently, we also have to send them a letter stating exactly how much based on the city's appraisal they're entitled to.
So that's what caught my eye, which is what bothered me, that this never came up when we were, approved in the approval process for the project. So can you explain a little bit more? First of all, has anybody requested any compensation to this point?
So let me this
Go ahead.
I think it was I understand and appreciate your understanding that the city engineer and myself are somewhat limited in being able to answer kind of what preceded this in the city council for this particular project. What I will note though, and this isn't a defense of anyone, just it's a fact. The city has not done a federal aid project that required takings, I believe, ever. I know this because I've looked to try to figure out when have we done this before, and we haven't. None of the projects that we've received federal monies for have implicated utilizing other people's property to complete the project. So that's just a factoid I thought I'd put out there. Now, with regards to the way that eminent domain works and this asking for the money, the way that eminent domain works is that we actually have to, again, go through this process where we do the appraisal, and we have to make them an offer, right? It's a pro tanto payment saying that this is appraisal, this is how much that you are entitled to based on our appraisal, and then coordinate with them after the order of taking is recorded to make that actual payment. So it's not really kind of the idea in the sense of they have to ask for it to be entitled to it. They are entitled to those monies upon the taking.
So have we done the appraisals?
Yes.
Yes.
And who conducted the appraisals, and I can imagine, you know, that cost a few bucks.
The city engineer can probably refresh everyone's memory better than mine. My understanding is that a few months ago, to even start the appraisals, the staff had to come to city council to get the monies appropriated. And then that was several months ago, and it took several months to get the appraisals done. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, the appraisals were done by a company called AM Appraisal Company, and they were a sub-consultant to the design engineers Howard Stein Hudson. And I believe we did come to city council a few months ago to obtain the funds. I don't remember what the funds were, and I don't want to state a number, but yes, you did approve the funds to make the appraisals, if you will, and they were made on 18 properties, and each abutter was notified of the amount of the appraisal. Yes.
All right, I don't remember planning coming in and asking for the money, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't at the meeting or missed it, so that's possible, but I would like to get more information on how much the appraisals cost and what we are on the hook for as far as payments, because as I said again, and Andrew, I appreciate what you said. It's I could see where if we haven't done this in quite some time or ever, I mean, I guess I could understand why it didn't come up in the original discussion. I mean, I appreciate the explanation, but it's still, I think it's information that I know that I would like to have as to how much these appraisals cost and what kind of payments, you know, we're looking at. Do you have any idea, Lou? Are we talking about a couple $100 here, or are we talking about more?
You mean the total value of all the appraisals?
No, how much?
Oh, you mean the cost of doing the appraisals?
No, how, you said there were what, 18 households?
Yes, 18 households, yes.
So
yes.
how much is roughly is each household getting? Do you have any idea? I don't want you to, if you're not sure, like, you know, we can get the information before the next meeting.
I believe the total amount of the appraised value was mentioned in the mayor's letter to you, about $229,000 total for all of the properties. So that's how much of the total, and again, each property varies a couple of $1,000, $14,000. They vary all over the place depending on the length of frontage and the amount of frontage that they need to take. But the total appraisal that the city owes is around $229,000, according to the mayor's memo, which was attached to the package. So, and I do want to mention, Council, regarding your concerns, this effort came in late in the game. This was not known to us when we were planning the project with the planning department. So this was very, very late in the game. As we were wrapping up the 100% design, it was like, oh, by the way, you have to take temporary easements. So this was very, very late in the game. Nicole Freeman was long gone when this came up. So,
Nicole, Lou, if I could correct you.
Yeah.
Nicole Freeman isn't long gone.
I know. She's still, yeah.
I thought she was, but she left. Yeah. We said all her goodbyes, and then come to find out she's still working for the city. So
yeah, I meant regarding this project, right?
All right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll stop at this point and see if others have questions, but I'm looking for them. I have all the paperwork for tonight, but I guess I missed the letter from the mayor, but let me find it and think about, you know, I'm not so sure that this is ready for prime time, but I'd like to hear what others think.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Gentile.
Thank you.
I'll recognize Councilor Crossley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the letter in front of me from the packet that says, you know, it's $229,000. I look at the maps, and if I make them really big, I can see that there's these tiny slivers of land along the frontages of all these properties. What you haven't said is why these are temporary easements. You have said that. So it's sort of like a nuisance fee. What are you doing with these slivers of property? Why do we need them? Presumably we're giving them back. Are we going to have restoration costs?
Well, as I think, as I stated previously, the construction contractor, whoever that may be, because they haven't bid the project yet, the construction contractor needs to occupy these slivers of land in order for him to construct the improvements, in order for him to construct the sidewalks, to make the sidewalk grades match the driveway grades, and so on and so forth. Again, city projects, we do rights of entry. It's a license agreement. There's no monies transferred. At the end of the project, they get the land back. The restoration is part of the project. You know, part of the project, part of the contractor building what he needs to build, restoring the land that he occupies is part of the project. That's just built into the project cost.
A known cost, even though.
Yeah, so yeah, that's in the bid. Yeah.
Okay, because it looks so tiny, I just can't.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, the actual plan will be 24 by 36. It'll be a large plan. What we gave you was the small version. So yeah,
I know I have a big screen, so I
Yeah.
spread it out across the whole screen. It still looks small, like to me.
But you're correct. They are.
Couldn't
I
fit a
described
car
it. They are slivers of land. They're 1 to 2 feet wide, if you will. Yeah, slivers of land.
Yeah, it's curious why that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and obviously in every construction contract, if they're fooling around at the edges of people's property and wind up going further in than the temporary easement, they got to restore that as well because it's
Correct.
damage. So, I guess if they need it, they need it. And if everybody knows about this and they're getting fairly compensated, really, it seems like a nuisance fee. But, obviously you have to allow everybody access to their property throughout the.
Mass DOT describes it as a rental fee. We're renting the land, if you will, for 3 years.
Okay, yeah, but you're also messing it up.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, I'm if you need this, you need it. I'm okay with moving this forward. I imagine time is precious.
Yeah. Mr. Taverner, is it a time sensitive?
It is a time sensitive, so the project can be bid. I believe we're counting on the city council vote on July 10th, so it is time sensitive. I'd like to resolve all of the issues tonight, if we could resolve all the issues tonight. If we need to get back to you before the city council meeting, we're happy to do that too. But it is time sensitive. Would like, Matt would like to bid this thing out. The idea is bid it out in the summer or fall so we can get a contractor on board to begin next spring.
Okay, so one more question, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Gentile for clarification for his question and see if it would be acceptable to have to vote it out tonight and have you come before the city council with the answers to the question so we could condition it. But after people receive these notifications, has any of them contacted the city with more questions, since this is kind of a first for the city? I don't even remember voting for this money, but so has anyone questioned you or had concerns about it?
Yeah. There's been a few questions. The average citizen really doesn't know what a temporary easement is or anything like that. So there's been questions. They've come to the engineering counter. They've been emailing us. So there've been some questions back and forth. Mostly, it's like, where do we sign? And they really don't sign anything. They really, it's your approval, moves the easements forward. So there's nothing for each individual to sign, as I understand it. So they're just a little confused. What we did offer them was a donation form. They're always welcome to donate the easement and not accept the payment. So that was a form that was part of the package. They got a little confused by that. They thought that was the form to accept the money. That's not the form to accept the money. So it's that a little bit administrative confusion that they were confused about. But once we talked to them and explained it to them, they kind of understood that as well. So.
Do you think that this is going to give any property owners major problems with access, or would they have like a big, huge piece of equipment parked in their front lawn for months? I mean,
well, it's the usual construction nuisance, as the contractor moves his equipment from west to east or from east to west to do his work, there'll be time to time, when we're reconstructing the driveway, there'll be, a few hours where they can't use the driveway, but we'll get them in and out. When we're reconstructing the sidewalk, there'll be a few hours, a few days where that sidewalk's not accessible. We're pushing pedestrians to the other side of the street. It's that type of typical construction, issues as we encounter. And this is, as Councilor Gentile mentioned, this is a major project. This isn't a mill and pave. This is a major reconstruction.
Right. Your
So,
construction, you're reconstructing 18 driveways?
essentially,
And
yeah,
sidewalks.
we have to, in order to meet the grade and the ADA requirements, each driveway needs a little bit of work in order to meet, in order to meet the ADA requirements. So yes, so as the contractor moves his equipment, across the project, there will be time to time where the driveways may not be accessible during the day, but at the end of the day, we'll get them back in, and then the next day. So,
Mhm.
so and then this happens, this happens for major projects. Of the Needham Street is a typical project where, that was Master. You keep the same ideas in Needham Street, that type of inconveniences, if you will, as the construction equipment moves along.
Yes, I can see that. It will be a big inconvenience. for
Yeah,
the-
fortunately, there is, the contractor can stage within the reservation area, because they'll have to restore that anyway. So the large equipment, overnight, over the weekend, will be stored in the reservation area, not in front of
Okay.
someone's house, as I understand it. So
I hope they will be as considerate as possible to the residents living there during this very difficult time.
that's the intent. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Councillor Gentile again. I see your hand is still up, and Councillor Gentile, I just wanted you to clarify the information that you wanted, and if you were willing to go along with having them come before us prior to City Council with the answers to your questions.
So I guess I don't understand the urgency of the, July vote. First of all, it's a problem for me because I already know I'm out of town.
Okay,
And I don't know why we couldn't just bid it with the money in there. And if we ended up, it's gonna end up being approved. It's just, and so it should go out in the bid that way. But here's the thing that really bothers me. This is a major project. It's a major improvement. It's a major improvement to the value of the homeowners who are gonna end up getting, a whole new area, and not the least of which is new sidewalks. And if you and I were to get a new sidewalk, we'd be paying for it. So not only are they not paying for it, we're gonna give them on average $10,000 a household. Does that make sense to anybody? So that's what's got me aggravated. And the fact that I didn't know about it, and I also would like to know how much we paid for the appraisals, because we're talking about probably over $300,000 added cost to, to the project. So, and I guess for Andrew, have we, because you talk about Needham Street, well, but no one's reimbursing anybody up on Needham Street for doing the same type of thing. And projects like this go on in the city all the time, and nobody gets reimbursed. This is a first. So it's just some kind of a federal requirement, a policy that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So Andrew, have we fully investigated if in fact we absolutely need to do this? Is there could we be turning to somebody that maybe understands this scenario a little bit more, that might be able to give us some advice as to how we don't have to pay people for improving their properties? Because it just doesn't sit right with me.
So, Councillor Gentile, I'm not going to make any comments with regards to, the principles in what you've stated. I will say that conversations that have been had with Mass DOT mirror a lot of your sentiments on the city side of things that were said. What I also will tell you is I myself actually have delved very deeply into the federal regulations. It's not a policy. We're talking about actual regulations. with regards to these federal aid projects, which this is. And this is indeed one of the requirements. Mass DOT is not making something up. I have had some back and forth with Mass DOT on some of their interpretations, but the fact of the matter is they hold the purse strings here. I understand what you mean, that it is different than other projects, and the fact is it is, and not in a way that's not meaningful, because it is a federal aid project. These are the requirements that we have to abide by. We did do our due diligence to make sure that these are in fact requirements that we have to comply with.
Andrew, if it's a federal requirement, why doesn't the feds pay for it? It's their rule.
I'll let you ask the federal government that. Madam Chair. But I also just want to make one more comment with regards to the timing issue. And again, I feel like I'm somewhat of a mouthpiece here, and unfortunately that's the only one I can take with regards to Mass DOT. Mass DOT has informed us on several occasions that they will not bid out the work. They cannot bid out the work until they have something called the right-of-way certificate. They will not issue the right-of-way certificate until we actually have the orders of taking recorded. That is what they have made absolutely 100% clear, that is their process and they will not deviate from it.
All right, so you answered one of my questions, that you have fully looked into this to see if in fact we have no choice in this matter. You know, and I'm going to take you at your word, and I'm sure that you did. So I appreciate that, which is why I know that at the end of the day, that we're going to have to, you know, come up with this money, or, well, we're going to come up with it because, you know, the contract is obviously going to build it into their bid. So my only thing is that, you know, maybe I'll get over it by July the 10th, but I wish that I could be here, you know, to speak to the item and just let my other colleagues know, you know, how I just think this is so dead wrong that we're doing it. But the only other thing, Andrew, you say that this is a first, but I mean, there are other projects, aren't there, where we get federal?
Hey, Kathy, I just sent it, I just sent the email.
Harry,
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 hey,
could you
mute?
mute?
Jerry, it's Lenny Gentile, please mute. But aren't there other projects where we get, you know, federal funds, you know, to do some work that this would have kicked in on? I'm just surprised to hear that this is a first.
So I'm really testing my memory here because I didn't review it right before this meeting, but I know sometime in early the 2000 teens, we did a federal aid project, but it only involved city property. And because it only involves city property, we don't do takings against ourselves. I looked, and I've even asked Mass DOT for information on, because I said the same thing, Councilor Gentile. I said, how has this not happened before? And from all of the information I received, I even talked to WIDA because I was concerned I was missing something. We haven't done it. At least even WIDA confirmed in her tenure that we haven't done it either, in a sense that it's a federal aid project that required takings of private property.
A temporary taking. That's as
Any
Councilor
taking.
Crossley pointed out, that's the thing. We're not actually, we're not going to end up taking anything.
We're
It's a
renting it.
temporary- Where it's a temporary easement, and at the end of the day, the property is going to be improved. Well, I'm starting to repeat myself. I'm just surprised everybody else seems to be okay with it, but anyway.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Gentile. I thought you brought up some important points that I actually hadn't thought of. Councilor Crossley.
Yes, this should go, so a question, a comment. I'm guessing that the amount of money that was necessary to do the appraisals went before finance and was a small amount of money, which is why we didn't see it here. I'm guessing that maybe somebody could confirm how that.
I believe it was
remember
finance
it.
only. I believe it was finance only, I believe. yeah.
Okay, and then in the mayor's letter, yes, it does say it's going to cost approximately $229,000. But she says, which will also go to finance, won't go anywhere actually, because, but she says the city will use a portion of the ARPA funds currently allotted to the Washington Street pilot project for this purpose. And then, so you have to ask, and I would like to know, because this doesn't, I don't think this is going back to finance. Maybe it is, it's not going anywhere if it's ARPA money. I would like to know, is this compromising the pilot project in some way? You know, how are we, or we're just then going to have to allocate city funds to complete the pilot project? Why would we do it this way? That's just, you know, maybe just because it's expedient and this is gonna, I understand the sequence of events that must occur as described by Mr. Lee.
It's sounding to me like the committee has some significant questions. So Lou, I want to ask you one more time, would a month make a difference in terms of the time sensitivity of this project? Councilor nodding her head.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pushing this and pushing this,
Okay.
you know, to this point. So, yeah, it will, you know, what our intent is to try to answer these questions in writing to your committee so that you have the answers for the July 10th meeting.
Yeah, that's all I want.
I can't speak
Okay.
for the executive, you know.
Well, we
office. I
could
don't-
meet
I don't know
before
how they
then.
decide.
There's nothing stopping us from meeting. I think we could meet again this.
I'm happy to get a
Yeah,
letter
other
instead
than the
of
4th of
meeting
July,
before
there's nothing
then.
stopping me. Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
You know, as long as there is a nuisance to this, you know, there's between a 2-foot and a 10-foot wide strip of land. There's some bump ins for it for, I guess, to place equipment or whatever, that's going to be in front of people's houses for a good amount of time. And it's going to be a mess. So there is certainly an inconvenience, I assume, but maybe this is another question, that the appraisal of the value of the land is the rental value of the land, as they put it. It's not the purchase value of the land, because we're not taking it. And I just wanted to add, it's not the feds, but along Needham Street, there were takings by the state. There were strips of land along Needham Street to make the whole thing work because there were some uneven dimensions and so forth.
Those were permanent land takings, correct?
Permanent land
Not temporary. Those
I
those
understand.
takings by Mass DOT were on Needham Street were permanent land takings.
I understand,
Okay.
but you know, I understand it's not the same, but it's also for a roadway in order to make it work. That's all. I'm okay with moving this forward because I know how important the project is and I don't want to hold it up. It's annoying, but lots of things are annoying. So I'm happy just to get some answers to these questions.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Crossley. Councilor Gentle, is your hand back up?
Yes, just Lou, I would like to see the item, again, I don't remember it coming to finance, but I would like to see if you could get it, get us some information on how much the appraisals cost.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I know how much they cost, and I'll find out how it got into finance. I don't recall myself either.
And could we get maybe, you don't need to dig out 28 appraisals, but could we get a couple of the more expensive costs?
We can provide you with the cost of each appraisal.
Yeah, no, not
the offer of compensation for each property is what I mean.
No, I just want to see a couple of the appraisals. That's it.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
And so, and again, I think most of you are familiar with Lyons. There is a perfect staging area of city-owned property across the street from the park. So the inconvenience, these people aren't going to have, or they shouldn't have, vehicles, you know, on their front lawns or parked overnight, because we have all that land right across the street from the Little League Park. Then that's where they're going to stage everything. It's a perfect area of staging.
That's correct. Yes.
Again, I don't understand the empathy to this quote inconvenience. It happens all over the city, you know, many, many months out of the year, and we don't, you know, pay people an inconvenience fee. So it's a quirk of the federal regulations. It's wrong. It's wasteful. You know, I don't know how else to describe it, but except that it's dead wrong. So
So,
I, for one, don't buy the inconvenience factor. Um,
so Counselor Gentile, you'll join me in calling the federal government to complain.
no, because your time is valuable and so is mine. We're not gonna waste it.
Counselor Gentile, would you like to make a motion on this item?
No, because I'm not supporting it.
Well, you're not going to support it at all, even?
Not right
Okay.
now, not right now. I need to get, I want to see these appraisals and, that's the other thing. I don't know who chose this, company, but, those are some pretty hefty fees for temporary easement. I mean, basically, I'd like to know who found was it your department, Lou, that picked the company?
No, it was our consulting engineers picked the company. We saw we saw their proposals, their scope of work, their proposals. They were selected. There was 2 appraisal companies that submitted, quotes, if you will, and one of them was chosen as to be, the best value for the money. But
Well,
we did it in conjunction with our consulting engineers.
I have a feeling we probably picked the wrong company because, there's how you quantify this kind of a bill. I don't know. And the other thing is, this thing may not have come to us, Lou, because they had money in that contract. And, Howard Hudson, what is it? Stein Hudson?
Yes.
It might have been, something that they're charging us, in the contract. And so maybe it didn't come to finance. I don't know. But
Yeah,
that's
I'll
the
have to check
information
that. I don't.
want.
I'm at home. I don't have it. I don't have it on my computer. But I will. We will check that. Get
All
back
right,
to you.
thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to wrap up this conversation then. Counselor Crossley, would you entertain a motion so that this item for approval subject to second call and the satisfactory answers to our questions in writing prior to the next city council meeting?
Yes, so moved.
Okay. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Any nays? Okay, so it's 1 abstention and 4 yays. Okay, are we all clear, Lou, on the information that we need
Yes. Yeah.
in
I'll
writing?
get the details from Cassidy. I think she's
Yes.
taking notes. But yes, I
Yeah.
understand basically what we're looking
Okay.
for here. Thank you.
I think Councillor Gentile has raised some important points, but on the other hand, I don't want to delay the project either. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next item, 180.
Madam Chair, one
Yes.
last request for info.
Yes,
Can we get, Lou, an up-to-date timeline of when they actually plan on starting the project?
Yeah, I have that. I have that in my notes, like I said, back in the office. So I have that too. I can get that to you too.
Thank
I have
you.
the schedule. Yes.
All right, thanks.
okay. If you want to just lower your hands now, so I don't get confused with the next item. This is Councilors Norton, Leary, and Laredo requesting discussion regarding the new stormwater ordinance and how the provisions are being enforced. Anyway, I won't read the whole thing because you saw it, but who is kicking off this item? Is this also you, Lou?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
do it. Yeah, I'm sure I got to shift gears now. So yes, I'll do it. Stormwater. Again, Lou Taverna, city engineer. I first want to introduce Eric Hires. He's our new environmental engineer, replacing Maria Rose. You all know, you all remember Maria Rose, who left for our next door neighbors in Brookline. Eric Hires, Eric, this is your 3rd week on the job or something like that, 2nd week, 3rd week on the job. So Eric's got a lot to do. I keep reminding him it's job security. It's just stormwater never ends. So he's got his work cut out for him. But Eric, if you want to say a word or two, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Lou. Good evening, City Councilor members. It's an honor to meet you tonight. My name is Eric Hires, and had the pleasure of recently taking on the role of environmental engineer with the City of Newton, having started last month. As you likely already know, Maria Rose, my predecessor, had left the city around mid last year. Going forward, I'll be picking up on her responsibilities. in primarily the management of the city's municipal stormwater permit that's been issued to us by the EPA. Just a little about me. I've grown up in Needham and am now residing in Dedham. So I've been familiar with the city of Newton and the greater Boston area pretty much my entire life. Over the past 3 years, I've worked for a company in the private sector, managing the stormwater and wastewater permits of industrial clients throughout Massachusetts, helping them achieve compliance with their permits through both in-field and in-office responsibilities, everything from compliance sampling, site inspections, to data entry and reporting. It's also during this time that I had finished up my degree. I've achieved my bachelor's degree through UMass Boston, financed entirely myself. And I'm very excited to be given this opportunity to move into the public sector and serve the city of Newton. And I greatly look forward to the responsibilities and challenges ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hires. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so I'm going to give a brief presentation tonight on where we are with the stormwater permit. Hope to answer as many questions as I can. If we can't answer questions, we can, we'll get back to you again in writing with the answer to the questions. But in the interest of time, I'll just go through a little brief update
Okay.
of where we are. Is
Lou,
that
I just
okay?
want to recognize that we've been joined by Councilor Emily Norton. Thank you.
Okay. So as you all know, we now have a stormwater ordinance, and we issue stormwater permits. Before that, it was simply the city engineer's policies that we were abiding by, but now it's codified. Now it's an ordinance, and I'll just refresh everybody's memory here. The purpose of the ordinance was so we can comply with Newton's NIPD's MS4 permits. I think you all know what that is. Establish stormwater management rules and regulations, support phosphorus load reduction targets, which is now becoming very critical. It's the hot topic of the season now, is phosphorus removal and how we meet those objectives. We need to protect, maintain, and enhance public safety as well as environmental health by reducing the volume of stormwater runoff. Again, codify existing stormwater management policy requirements, and ensure that new development and redevelopment controls and treats stormwater runoff before it leaves private properties. Of course, the objectives, I'll repeat them again, minimize discharge of pollutants into the stormwater in stormwater runoff from new and redeveloped sites, minimize or eliminate soil erosion and maintain sediment on site so it's not transported off-site, reduce or mitigate the volume of stormwater runoff associated with new impervious surfaces such as parking lots, driveways. Very important, implement low-impact development strategies. Track projects for compliance for the MS4 annual reports, and as well as workflow using the new NewGov permitting software. We formalized the standard procedures for review of construction permits, construction inspections, and project closeouts. We did establish a fee for the stormwater projects. Just a reminder, the land disturbance permit fee is $50. Minor stormwater permit fee is $100, and the major stormwater permit fee is $300. So what have we done for the past year? We implemented this in late May, early June of 2022. So far, we've issued major permits issued is 96 total for a revenue of $28,000. Minor permits issued 22 for a revenue of $2,200, and we haven't issued a land disturbance permit yet. Further breakdown, we have 34 redevelopment permits. These meet 80% of the total suspended solids load reduction and 50% of the phosphorus load reduction. We also have 84, if you believe 84 in the past year, new development projects. These meet 90% of the total suspended solids load reduction and 60% of the phosphorus load reduction. So what we're trying to accomplish now in calendar year 2023, we have the NIPD's MS4 permit year 5 data. The data is through June 30th. The annual report that we submit to the EPA and DEP is due September 30th. We're also working diligently on a phosphorus reduction plan. As you may know, the city needs to commit to reducing phosphorus load reduction citywide. The goal is 1,058 pounds per year by NIPD's permit year 8, which is June of 2026. So that's coming up very quickly. The phosphorus reduction plan is due to be submitted with the annual NIPD's permit. It's through June 30th, but it's due to be submitted on September 30th. In the phosphorus reduction plan, we've identified numerous projects, most of them within the CIP, with the potential for phosphorus removal, and that we're currently reviewing the designs. Lincoln Elliott School rehabilitation, the Countryside School rehabilitation, Franklin School, Albemarle Fields, including the Gath Pool renovations, where there's some very good opportunities for stormwater mitigation, as well as the McGrath Park renovations. Some accomplishments we've done in the past year include the library parking lot. As you saw, that is completed. We did stormwater mitigation, library parking lot, and we were able to accomplish, by calculations, about 2.2 pounds of phosphorus per year in that parking lot. We also did the intersection of Crafts and Walnut Street. We put in a small stormwater system in that project. That's about 16 or 17 ounces of phosphorus removal. And upcoming this summer is the Pearl Street parking lot, where we put in some trench drains. As a parking lot's built on 2 retaining walls, so didn't want to put too much stormwater into the ground there, but we do have some trench drains removing, again, about 15 to 17 ounces of phosphorus. So we're installing these things and removing phosphorus in pounds, very little pounds, but it's the additive, it's the cumulative of that will have the city attempt to reach the goal of 1,058 pounds per year by June 2026. All of these, we're calculating the phosphorus removal of all of these major and minor permits. Don't have that information tonight, but we're going to quantify that for the annual report, and we can get that information to you as well. So again, the stormwater element is a twofold thing. It's stormwater mitigation, flood management, if you will, as well as phosphorus removal. The other thing that we did is we realized that our consultants are telling us anyway, is that the EPA and the DEP are performing audits of the NIPD's 4 permits, and they may be auditing the city of Newton within the upcoming fiscal year, or certainly the next 2 fiscal years. So we are preparing internally for the audit, kind of cleaning up our own act as far as the audit goes. We actually did a mock audit and came up with some recommendations that we need to move forward on, particularly in the areas of the required aspects of the permit. Hang on, I got it right here. That's including, they call it, hang on, next page. Public education and outreach, where we had the water sewer stormwater committee. I believe we're going to renew reactivate this water sewer stormwater committee. So that's coming.
We have a date set.
Yeah, we have some mailings that we need to improve upon, mailings to the residents, and, how to pick up dog poop and how to empty a swimming pool, and, keep waste out of the storm drain system, so on and so forth. Public participation, a couple of things, we need to tighten our belt on regarding that. Our own house, the yards, the Elliott Street yard, the Crass Street yard, Rumford Avenue. There's some improvements that we need to make. We need to continue some monitoring of catch basins we within our own yards, the idea is clean up your own house first before we make the residents do it. So that type of stuff we did, so the mock audit was very handy, and it gave us some ideas of where we need to go from here. So that's kind of my presentation for tonight. Happy to answer questions. The bottom line is the permit is working very well. The stormwater ordinance is working very well. Very little problems with the residents, developers. They all understand it. They all hire engineers who understand it. They do this in other communities as well. So very, very little problems with the public in, regarding, why are we implementing this stormwater permit. So there haven't been a lot of problems. A lot of questions come up and a lot of advice they're seeking, but once they get it, they understand it and they're able to comply with it.
And Lou, just to keep in mind, the city has to remove somewhere around 4,000 pounds of phosphorus.
At year
over
20, I think it's year 20.
Right.
Yeah, NIPD's year 20. Yeah. But again, they set a goal, so it's 1,058 pounds by year 8, which is 2026. So yeah,
That's considering we've removed like 2 pounds.
it's a
from the
hefty.
library project.
Yeah, we're actually looking back. They're allowing us to look back to year 2005 and attempt to get credit for things that have been done since 2005 to the current, to the present. But again, they're looking for records. They're looking for, do you have the O&M plan? Is anybody maintaining these systems that were installed in 2005? So we're backtracking on some of the stuff and trying to come up with that information as well. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's the cumulative effect of 25,000 properties in Newton, plus all the city properties, that are being developed. It's the cumulative amount that we hope will get us the 1,000 pounds and the 4,000 pounds, citywide. So that's what we're hoping for. Not the 5 or 6 individual projects. So that won't get us anywhere near the amount. So.
I'm going to recognize Councillor Crossley.
Thank you. Thanks for this, Lou. It would be very helpful to have a summary in writing. And you talked about an annual report. When are you submitting an annual report?
Yeah, we do. We do the annual report annually. Yeah. So then the next one.
But like
next
the next month or by
due,
December?
It's due on September 3rd. The annual report, the NIPD's annual report, which will contain the phosphorus control plan, is due September 30th. We're drafting it now as we speak. Us and our consulting engineers, it's under draft now. I don't have anything to show yet, but certainly we will get that to you once it's completed. Certainly.
Okay, but we're not going to see any sort of summary in writing before then.
No, because it's still in draft form. It's still being prepared, if you will. So because the reason is the data is through June 30th, which is next week. So we have to include all the data through June 30th. So it is in draft form. It's a work in progress, if you will. So.
Okay, so you're tracking data since 2005. Is that going to be presented?
No. What I meant was, in order to get credit for phosphorus removal, they're allowing us to look back in time to things that have been done, stormwater improvements that may have been made since year 2005. So we're going back to some of Josh Morse's school projects, some of the other projects, city projects, some of the field improvements that have been made, and see if we can get credit, phosphorus removal credit for some of those projects that have been done in the past. So they're not expecting us to start here on June 21st. They're expecting us to go back a little bit. Yeah.
I heard that. So, but to do that, you have to you're tracking data since 2005.
Yeah, and which is not, the data is there. It's not easy to find. It's there, but yeah, we have to get it. Yeah.
What about special permit projects that require?
Special permit projects as well. Yeah, we have that. We know the special permits. We know, that stormwater mitigation were installed in special permits. We have the language, so it's really a look back into those projects. Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Well, like I said, every ounce counts. So that's what we're trying to get credit for those ounces. Yeah.
Well, it's also good to track progress and to see how
Yes.
difficult and how expensive the
Yes.
work is
Yes.
over time.
Yes.
So I think that's really important, and to have it in an organized database of some sort.
Yeah, we're all, it's all being done in this new Gov software program that, that's been in running for over a year now. So it's all being tracked in that software. Yes.
Okay, I just would like to hear you. What do you see as your biggest challenges, qualitative, I guess, challenges against meeting these targets? As it seems like a massive.
Yeah, there's there's, I don't want to be too specific, but there's the goal and there's reality. So the goal is to meet, the EPA requirements. The reality is to present, if you will, an alternative schedule. We may not meet these goals by year 8, but I think what the EPA and DP is, they're looking at progress. And we're not. It's not just Newton. It's all the other communities in Massachusetts too. They're all facing the same issues. Yes, we live in the Lower Charles River Basin. The Lower Charles River Basin is a stressed basin as far as phosphorus is concerned. But our neighbors across the river, they're all having these these same issues. Their phosphorus load reduction varies from Watertown to Waltham to to Brookline to Needham. It varies across the board. But the biggest problem, the biggest challenge is implementing these projects. As well as, if you will, funding these projects. It costs money to install, stormwater management systems. As far as the city projects goes, they're built into the projects. Josh Morse's school projects, he's building these costs into the project. It's the little projects that we're doing, the intersection improvements, where we do like Crafts at Walnut, we do an intersection improvement. We put in some stormwater management control, but that costs money, toward the project. So, it's always, I don't want to speak too much about it, but it is a cost to install these systems in order to meet the phosphorus goals.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you for now.
Okay. So Lou, is there any federal funds available to help
There's
us?
There's grants. Our consulting engineers are pursuing some grants. So there are grants. The issue with the grants is they are competitive. So we're competing with our neighbors. But there are grants available, and where my consulting engineers are taking an active role in pursuing some of the grants.
And I hope we're working closely with the Charles River Watershed Association to
Yes, we are.
maximize our ability to meet this important goal and not have to push it off.
We certainly are. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, look who's here, the executive director of the
Oh.
CRWA. So I will recognize her at this moment.
Thank you so much. Here's with my city council hat on, of course. Thank you so much, Mr. Taverna, for that update. I have a couple questions related to that, but before that, this item was really about, or at least what I docketed with Councilor Leary and Councilor Laredo, was a year ago when we talked about the updated stormwater rules. It was sort of left open how that was going to be enforced. So wondering what that is going to look like, because these things are only as effective as the maintenance. So, you've got things that are installed on private property, and, that homeowner has responsibilities. The new homeowner, the new commercial owner, whatever, has responsibilities. What's our plan for enforcement?
Yeah, that's a good question. Each permit, they are required to submit an operation and maintenance plan. The idea is that the developer, the owner of the property, would submit to us their records of maintaining the system that they installed. So the enforcement, if you will, is to knock on doors, send emails, send letters, make phone calls, and get the O&M plan, the maintenance plan of the system that has been installed. Large developers, usually not a problem. They have the ability, to come up with the records. They diligently maintain the systems. It's the small, the small resident, the resident that, they have a small system that does requires maintenance. And so our duty then, again, this has only been implemented for a year. Our duty then is to, get their O&M records, remind them that the system has to be maintained and obtain those records. So that's, again, it's a work in progress. We've only been implementing this for a year. I think we gave them 3 years, to close out their, close out their stormwater permit. So it's a work in progress. It's a little bit of effort on our part to have my inspectors, as well as Eric Hires, new hire, to go out and kind of knock on doors and just remind people to submit these maintenance records to us. Again, the big developer is not a problem. It's the small, the homeowner who has some sort of system in their driveway. They don't even know what it is. So
That's I think the real concern is that.
Yeah. So we have to remind them. Our job is to remind them that you have a system. It's been permitted. Please maintain it, and please give us, your maintenance record. So I'm saying tonight it's a work in progress. But again, this is only year one of the actual implementation of the permits. So.
But do you think over time it'll be more, because it sounds a little loosey-goosey now in terms of
It'll
whose
be more
responsibility is?
structured as we get into this more and more, as we use the new Gov program. It allows us to ping, to ping the developer, ping the owner. So as we get into this over time, within, much more sooner than later, as we get into this, it'll be much more routine. We can, it'll ping us to send an email, to these people and remind them, and, track the information coming back in. So, yes.
Okay. Well, I won't be here next year at this time, but I would encourage the committee, for those who are, to perhaps ask Mr. Taverna and Mr. Hires to come back and report on how things are going and what the system looks like, because, we could do all this stuff to make people install these things, and then if they're not maintained, it's as if we didn't go through all of this. So
we're happy to report back to you next year. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. So just a couple other questions. I had spoken with someone else in the city about our work with Woodard and Kern, and I know that they are looking under every blade of grass for possible projects related to phosphorus reduction. And I had asked whether, as they're doing that, they could also be looking for flood mitigation benefits, because often there should be an important co-benefit there, and was told that that would require a change in scope of their contract. And to me, that seems like a worthwhile expenditure, because, there's some people who are interested in the phosphorus, whatever, and obviously it's the law, but a lot of people are going to be really interested in fewer instances of their basements flooding out, or their streets flooding out, cars getting flooded out, etc. So wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, they do essentially go hand in hand, but it's not a one-to-one. Woodard and Kern is under contract to do phosphorus, the phosphorus control plan. I'll certainly bring it up to the commissioner and the deputy commissioner to, explore further scope for stormwater management. They ought to go hand in hand, but you do a phosphorus control project, you get a little bit of stormwater management. You do a stormwater management project, you get a little bit of phosphorus control. So it's not a one-to-one. But yeah,
I totally get it. I think the value though is obviously our residents really expect us probably to be taking steps, even if they're unaware of the risks that they face, to reduce those risks to them. But I think would also make it easier to free up funds. It's, this would be something that would be probably pretty politically popular, is we're making these investments to clean up the river as well as keep you safe from flooding. So I would, and I've brought this up to the mayor as well. So, so I hope you can follow up on that. And
I'll follow up with that with the commissioner. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then related to McGrath, it was my understanding from the recent conversation we had with Luis, as far as the CPA funds that we did approve, that there isn't anything related to phosphorus reduction happening at McGrath. So I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah. McGrath was flood control only, as I understand it. Eric, do you remember?
Well, they're
What-
doing
what-
the main project is about just the master plan and the lacrosse wall and just sort of recreational improvements. And I
Right,
had
right.
asked, well, as long as you're tearing anything up over there, you hold in more water there, there's gonna be less flooding at Albemarle. And it didn't sound like there had been any analysis of that. And to me, it seems like that should be just part of what we do is anytime we're touching a park, look at phosphorus, which it sounds like we're probably already doing, but look at flood mitigation potential, because so much more water is gonna come.
Yes. Yep. I agree. Yes.
So anyway, I'm considering actually docketing something on that it would just be, that we force this to happen in a way that seems like it's not happening yet. And then the last thing I just wanted to raise was the 2018 Climate Resilience and Adaptation Plan made a recommendation that we should be considering applying rules that we already have in place for floodplains to all areas that are actually floodplains. And for example, you probably saw this, but the MAPC had a report 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point that the March 2010 storm, the last major flooding event we've had in the entire area, not just Newton, but Massachusetts and so forth, 96% of the flood and disaster claims were outside the 100-year floodplains, 96%, including properties in Newton. So we know that flooding is happening in areas that are not currently identified as floodplains. It seems to me that getting ahead of that would be, using the data that we have, and we have the data on where the actual 100-year floodplains are now and applying the same rules there. And I know it'd be difficult to tell people that they can't have basements, for example, but we really need to be respecting the water that's already here and it's coming. So that was my last point that I wanted to raise and see if is that at all on anyone's radar at this point?
Well, certainly, again, it is certainly worth discussion. Yeah, I was here for the 2010 storm. Basically, we're dealing with a 150-year-old drainage system that was completely overwhelmed, with that intense rain. So hence the flooding in the non-floodplain areas. Sure, certainly that was an overwhelming of the stormwater system, of the drainage system. Sure, in that quick amount of time. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'll probably follow up with the committee on docketing something on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norton. Lou, are we still allowing basements to be built in Oak Hill Park?
The developers are coming up with some creative ways, but we're still maintaining that 1 foot rule. So the 1 foot rule still applies. So they're coming up with some other creative means of doing. I don't personally review these permits, but people are still building in Oak Hill Park, and we're maintaining that 1 foot rule. You can't build, within 1 foot of the groundwater table. So
what are the creative things they're doing?
I don't review. It is really zoning and building plans, which I don't see. So we just ensure they don't build within the 1 foot zone. That's an ISD thing that they would review.
Yeah.
So,
Well, shouldn't there be some communication?
Oh yeah. But I don't. Engineering division doesn't get involved in what the structure looks like. We just ensure that it meets the stormwater requirements. So I would defer that to ISD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one other point or question I want to make is, what really bothers me, the City Hall ponds that are all sludged up. And
Yes, they are. Yeah.
we can't, the cost of removing that soil, that dirt, that mud, which has some level of contamination, but I'm not sure what. But the EPA and state or federal authorities are much more strict about how to get rid of that stuff. And then we're seeing the costs escalate. So my question is, what can we do to minimize the amount of silting up of our ponds? What can we capture stuff further downstream? What kind of infrastructure, or what kind of mechanical, or what kind of ensuring more green spaces or rain gardens upstream to help minimize that silting up, which seems to happen every 10 years. And who knows, in another 10 or 15 years or more, we may not be even, I don't know if we can even afford to do anything about it because there's no place to put it now.
Well, let me answer in two parts. DPW is actively pursuing some local, and I use that term lightly, local areas where we can dispose of this material. We have a couple of sites in the Danvers area that may accept this material, so we are pursuing that as we speak. When we bid it, the project last year, the sites were not available, and we left it up to the contractor to find his disposal site. Contractor was forced to take it out of state, hence the extreme, transportation costs. We think we have some local sites, like I said, Danvers is as local as it gets, if you will, that we can dispose of this material. So look forward to a rebid of the project, and the target would be, the winter of 2023 to actually do the disposal and the removal and the disposal of the material. To answer your question, though, is the 3 ponds were designed and built to receive sediment. They are sedimentation ponds, particularly pond number 1, the one closest to Homer Street. They were designed to settle out, if you will, all the material from the catch basins and from the drainage area, which, as you know, is extremely large. Crystal Lake, Hammond Pond drains into the 3 ponds. So the drainage area of the 3 ponds is extremely large, and there are many catch basins within that area. The ponds were designed to settle out the material that gets into the catch basins before it goes into Bellows Pond. So yes, every 10 years or so, they were built for like a 10-year, if you will, maintenance life. Every 10 years or so, they need to be the sediment that accumulates in the ponds needs to be removed, and so that the ponds will function again for the next 10 years. And 10 years from now, we'll be coming before you again for sediment removal. That's how they were
This
designed.
doesn't sound like a good plan.
Well, it is. I didn't design the 3 ponds, but the plan
Maybe
is,
you should change that.
the only other way to do it is to put deep sump catch basins in every catch basin within the drainage area, which would be impractical at best. That would be cost prohibitive. It's far cheaper to clean out the ponds every 10 years than construct deep sump. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of catch basins within the drainage area. We couldn't possibly, reconstruct each one as a deep sump catch basin. As you know, most of the city catch basins are shallow sump, so that the sediment, doesn't collect in the catch basins. It flows down the drainage system. It settles out into the 3 ponds. So hence, that's why we need to, remove the sediment every 10 years. That's what they were designed to do.
Okay, my concern is that we're not being able to afford to even do that because
I mean,
a couple of years
we're not
ago.
alone. I mean, many other communities are facing the same thing. It's been in the news. It's been in the Boston Globe. Disposal sites within Massachusetts are rare. They're few and far between, and it's getting worse.
Do you test this? Do you test the sediment?
We do test the sediment. We
Are
test
there
the
any
sediment for
PFAS in it?
metals. Say again?
Are there any PFAS in them, the forever chemicals in them?
I don't believe we found PFAS in it. It's mostly metals, from the automobile exhaust.
Yeah.
I don't think we found PFAS in them.
Okay, I'm not gonna, we'll move on. So
Okay.
I don't see any questions from any other,
I'm losing my light here, but okay.
yeah. You get darker and darker, Lou.
Yeah, the sun's going down.
Yeah. Okay,
That's what lights are for.
Yeah, I got it.
so we can move, move. Are there any other questions from the committee? Is there a motion?
Move to hold.
Okay, motion to hold from Councillor Crossley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, our final item of the night. This is 4822, and this is an update on the status of implementing our climate action plan. And we are joined by Bill Ferguson, our co-director of sustainability.
Yeah, thank you. This is actually a rundown on the municipal energy initiatives. The presentation on the climate action plan is a presentation that the whole sustainability team makes to the council of the whole sometime in the late fall usually. So I'm here just to go over the municipal kind of operations type activities.
Yes, Mr. Ferguson, actually in the chair's note, we did put down focusing on clean energy, energy efficiency and solar.
Right. So, and I think Cassidy is going to put up my presentation for me. Thank you, Cassidy. And before I start, I just want to thank John Sloat for all the contributions he's made over the last few years. Has a lot of expertise he's offered to the city. He's worked mainly with Leora more than anybody on the sustainability team. And John has a lot of expertise that he offers in a very constructive way. So we really appreciate that, John, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to take a position on the Energy Commission. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
So let me, let's just go backwards to that title slide for a second so I can explain the context of this. So this City of Newton Municipal Energy Report is a report I do annually mainly for Maureen Lemieux is the one that requests it every year. And I do it for her and the mayor. And I present it to annually to the mayor, to Maureen, to Josh Morse, and to Jonathan Yo, and to the school department, Liam Hurley, Sean Mannion, and Dave Stickney. So I think you all know those school department people and what their interest might be in this type of report. So I'm going to talk about really two reports today. There's this municipal energy report, which is an annual report, which is really covers essentially fiscal year 22 activities. But on the second slide, if you want to move to that now, Cassidy, there's one slide here that I want to talk about that covers the annual Green Communities report that I have to submit. So annually, the State Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Program requires a report that I prepare, and there's a lot of work behind this report that I'm not going to show you, but the data that's in this report captures all the data that is inputted into a platform. Well, did I lose you? That I put into a platform called Mass Energy Insight. It's a state data platform that all green communities have to use. And part of what we have to do to get ready for this annual report is to input data that's not automatically entered by the utilities. So that includes mainly it's oil use in buildings, and it's diesel and gasoline. All the utility data, by that I mean natural gas and electricity data is automatically entered into the Mass Energy Insight platform. I also put in the solar data. That's something I have to enter every year. So what this table does, it kind of gets to the bottom line of what is our energy performance relative to the baseline year under green communities. The baseline year is 2008, and everything is expressed in MMBTU, which is millions of BTUs, and all energy use is converted to MMBTU. So the MMBTU figures include electric, natural gas, gasoline, diesel, solar, everything is in those numbers. And what this chart shows is our progress. And our progress for the city of Newton for all of our total energy uses is that we've reduced our energy use 12.7% compared to 2008. In order to maintain our status as a green community, we have to submit this report. We have other requirements like the stretch code was a requirement to become a green community, and we automatically adopt the new stretch codes when they come out periodically. Except for, of course, this year there was a new stretch code and a something that goes beyond the stretch code, which is called the special opt-in stretch code, which the city of Newton adopted. This also requires us, the Green Communities Program also requires us to make sure that our fleet purchases meet efficiency standards. So all those things are covered by this Green Communities report that's submitted annually every year. And we have to make sure we comply with the reporting requirements, with the building code requirements, with the fleet efficiency requirements. And we have to demonstrate how we're doing that. So that is a brief description of the Green Communities Program, how it works, and how we maintain our status as a green community. And one of the things having that green community status does for us is it enables us to get green communities grants every year. So, which I'll get into a little later. So the rest of these slides that I'm going to go into relate to municipal activities, and mainly in municipal buildings. So if you want to move to the next slide, I'll go through these very quickly. So this shows what our electricity use has been since 2016, which it was going downhill. It went way down during COVID, and now it's popped up a little bit again. So we're kind of pretty much at 2016 levels. That's in part explained by the fact that our new buildings use a lot more electricity than the buildings they replaced, because they're bigger and because they have central air conditioning. Next slide. So this chart shows where we've shown increases, which buildings have increases, which are the blue shaded areas, and which buildings have decreases. And I think just to pick out a couple things for this slide, the main library has had a big increase in electricity use. And which is why we're replacing the HVAC system there. It's at the end of its life. It's performing very inefficiently, and we're replacing that with a new system. And just a couple other quick things on this chart. You'll see the increase in use at EV charging stations, which is a good thing. And increase in electricity use, for instance, at Auburndale Library, where we got completely off of fossil fuels, and we installed a heat pump system in that building. On the bottom half of this chart, you can see, I think the most significant things on this is the savings at the high schools. The North and South High School have had significant electricity savings. Between the two of them, it's like almost 900,000 kilowatt hours. So I think what this shows in part is that, you know, the school department is focusing on the most important buildings, and some of the smaller buildings might slip through the cracks a little bit, or in some cases, I think there's some increases in electricity use because of new operations to address COVID, to bring in more ventilation. So that's a factor in, I think, the increases in a number of these buildings. Next slide, please. Here's our gas use, which fluctuates. It's mainly kind of weather dependent, but basically we're kind of flat in our gas use. You can see that in FY20 during COVID, we went down. Next slide, please. So this shows where some of the increases and decreases are. The blue shaded part of the slide where we've seen increases. The green shaded part of the slide is where we've seen decreases. Next slide, please. And this just points out that this slide isn't completely up to date, but what I wanted to point out here is that oil use, which is the red line, is way down. We've almost eliminated oil use. There's still a few buildings that are using oil, but you know, we're working on getting those off of oil and, you know, onto heat pumps, such as we did with Auburndale Library.
Bill, these are city buildings, right? Municipal buildings?
Yes, this is all municipal buildings, all municipal buildings. Yeah. Next slide, please. So this is just an analysis that we did on the main library. I won't spend much time on it, but when we see increases, sometimes we'll look at the data in a little more detail. And this shows, you know, kilowatt hour use started to increase in FY19, and has pretty much continued to climb and stayed at a high level since then. Next slide, please. And the same is true for gas use at the library, and this helps kind of justify our decision to put in a new HVAC system on at the library, because there's a trend that we couldn't reverse there just because the equipment is so old. Next slide, please. And I'm not, let's skip this slide. I don't want to get into this much detail. So here's a slide that shows the electricity contract that the city has. We buy our electricity through a third-party supplier. We use Constellation Energy. We're in a 4-year contract now with a fixed price. And what this does is it shows what we, what we saved from our contract versus what we would have paid if we depended on Eversource for our supply during the last fiscal year. So actually during this fiscal year, this covers mainly this fiscal year. So the savings were would have amounted to over $3 million versus having to buy our electric supply from Eversource. Next slide. The same is true of our natural gas contract. We're on the last year of that contract. We paid very low rates under our Newton supply contract. We paid 53 cents a therm. The national grid supply rate is shown in that second column. It was as high as $1 for a therm. And our savings from our contract, our Newton supply contract versus natural grid, amounted to $576,000. Next slide. So here's some information about our supply contracts. Our natural gas contract we do through the state of Massachusetts Operational Services Division. So they got us a good price for our contract from November 1st, 2019 through October 31, this coming October. That price is 53.9 cents a therm. The extension, they just executed an extension, a 2-year extension, which picks up November 2023 and runs through October 31st, 2025. Our gas price is going to go up to 98 cents a therm under that new contract extension. Our electricity contract, we use an energy broker. The broker is Freedom Energy Logistics. They help us with that purchase. And we're under a contract that began November 1st, 2020 and runs through November 30th, 2024. And that price is at just over 9 cents a kilowatt hour. So we're good through next fiscal year and a little beyond, but we'll be going out to bid in about a year for that contract. And I'm expecting to see rates, more along the lines of what we just got for Newton Power Choice. So I think we're going to see something around 14 cents or so, beginning when this contract expires. So that'll be between gas and electricity price increases. There'll be an impact on the budget that's going to be relatively significant. We also buy renewable energy certificates. The city does. We buy 2,100 renewable energy certificates a year. That's a 4-year contract. That cost us $80,000 per year. And the 2,100 RECs represents 10% of our electricity use. So basically, the city is 10% above the state required standard. which puts us at, I think it's 32% of our electricity is green now. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip this one. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of our solar projects, our actual operating online solar projects. And as you know, we have 3 phases. Phase 1 was a small group of buildings. Phase 2 included buildings like the South High School canopies and the Elliott Street DPW solar canopies. And of course, Rumford is the largest project. That's the landfill project. Phase 3 started to come online in FY 2021, and these projects are now delivering about 6 million kilowatt hours a year, which is about 30% of our, it's equivalent to 30% of the city's energy use. They're also delivering us a lot of savings. In fact, in FY23, they'll be delivering us about $1 million in savings. Next slide, please. So these are the phase 3 projects. The projects highlighted in blue have been completed. The projects highlighted in green, we're still working on. There's 11 projects that were approved by the city council under phase 3 that haven't been built yet. We're beginning to breathe some life into those projects again. We have 2 contractors we're working with, and that's indicated on this chart under the column Solar Company. We're working with Ameresco to build 7 of the 11 remaining projects, and we're working with a company called Select to build 4 of the projects. They're making progress. They've gotten smart applications approved for 8 of the projects, and they have interconnection service applications submitted to Eversource for all these projects. I met with Eversource, I met with Ameresco today. They're looking at actually the first quarter of next year to begin construction on the 7 projects that are listed under their name here. The one thing to keep in mind about these projects is we're not going to see savings, financial savings from their projects. These are going to be break-even projects. The projects are being done because the mayor has a commitment to our climate action planning and helping to make the grid green by contributing solar to the grid, and these projects will help accomplish that. Next slide, please. The mayor has asked what will solar phase 4 look like. So these are some of the things we're looking at for solar phase 4. Of course, any new building, we're going to put solar on. Actually, New Cal should be on this list, and I see that it isn't. For example, Lincoln Elliott School, the 150 Jackson Road project, that school renovation. I've worked with Josh and Alex to get solar proposals for that project. So we have solar proposals in hand for that project. And any school we put a new, or any building we put a new roof on. Bigelow School is in the pipeline for a new roof. We're going to put solar on any building that gets a new roof. And we also may revisit canopies at Auburndale Cove and Albemarle that were originally part of phase 3, but ended up getting removed. Next slide, please. There's a schematic of what the Albemarle solar project looked like, and there's a schematic of Auburndale Cove, what that proposal looked like under phase 3. Next slide. This is the Green Community Grant that we're working on now. These are the kinds of projects we're doing. We're moving away from lighting. We've done a lot of LED lighting, these grant funds. We're trying to use the funds for decarbonization projects now. So we have a decarbonization project going on at Fire Station 1, where we're installing heat pumps for the living quarters upstairs. And that construction on that's going to start by the end of this month, I believe. And we're also doing some things you're supposed to do when you put in heat pumps into buildings. We're weather stripping and insulating. We're also putting in better heating controls in the downstairs space, which will continue to be heated by gas. So this is what we call a phased decarbonization project. We're going to put the upstairs on heat pumps and eventually get to the downstairs and have a building that's completely decarbonized over time. Next slide, please. Should I be answering questions now? I see hands up.
Yeah, we'll take questions, Bill, when you've completed your presentation.
So grants and rebates. This is a chart that shows all the grants we've gotten under Green Community since 2010. As I mentioned before, being a green community entitles us to these grants, and we have to remain a green community in good standing by submitting that annual report and complying with the requirements of the Green Community Program. So we've received $1.7 million since 2010 under the Green Communities grant program. We've also received $2,458,000 in utility rebates since I've come on and started recording this information. So we get rebates for the Green Communities projects and any of the other projects we do. One of the things I'm working on with Josh is making sure we maximize the utility rebates we get for our new buildings. So I've been very involved with Josh and Alex, working with Eversource to make sure we get all the utility rebates we can for the new Lincoln Elliott School and for New Cal. We also are involved in a demand response program where we get paid for reducing our power consumption during system peaks, which usually are in the summer, but you may know that last December 24th, we were in a tight power supply situation, and we were asked to reduce our electricity use Christmas Eve. Not just us, a whole series of customers that participate in these programs. And we've been getting some EV charger grants. These are just grants from the Department of Environmental Protection. We've also gotten a lot of financial services. I shouldn't put it that way. We've gotten a lot of free services from Eversource. They install electricity services under their Make Ready program. And we've probably gotten a few $100,000 of those services from Eversource. That would include things like all the EV charges at the War Memorial Circle. That electrical service was installed at no cost to us by Eversource. That also includes the charges at the library and at North High School. And we have some other projects we're teeing up. And I would also add, just going back to the Green Communities grants, we're going to participate in a new program this year, a new grant program for decarbonization, where we can get a $500,000 grant. And we're trying to decide with Josh whether we're going to use that on the library or on Pierce School. We're working on both of those buildings to completely electrify them, and we're trying to figure out how to fund those projects. So that $500,000 decarbonization grant, which I hope we get, would go to one of those two projects. Next slide, please. Here's a quick shot at our gasoline and diesel use, which has steadily declined due to more efficient equipment, and I think to some degree from the EV charges. We have 32 electric vehicles in the city fleet now, and they're off of gasoline and onto electricity. The DPW, Travis Mosca, is buying 9 RAV4 Prime, which are plug-in hybrid vehicles, to replace some of the SUVs used by DPW inspectors. So they're doing some good work trying to convert the city fleet to electric vehicles wherever they can. And I think these figures show that work. Next slide. I think that's basically the last slide. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill, for the presentation. So I see there's a number of hands up, so I'll recognize in order. Councilor Danberg, followed by Councilor Norton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill, this is really helpful information. You have given us a lot of information packed in here, and it's hard to absorb it all, but it's very important stuff. A couple of comments and questions.
Yeah.
Craft Street, I notice, has gone up 33% in its electrical use. What are we doing differently at Craft Street now? Have we installed electric heat pumps, or what's going on there?
I think that the occupancy has increased of that building. I think probably in the base year, it had a pretty low level of occupancy. And then I think Parks was in there and they moved out and DPW moved in. So I think that explains most of that. So, sometimes it's just, the base year doesn't always work for every building. And I think that's what happened in that case.
Okay, and I noticed that police is down by 25%. What's the
Yeah.
major change there?
I can't explain that, but I'm really glad to see it.
Yeah, it's great.
So, but I will say this, I mean, sometimes when we have these big changes, in use, if we look at every electricity bill, we might find something, and I've seen this happen on a couple of occasions. We might find that for some reason, there was an estimated bill that was really low, or I've seen situations at one of our buildings where we didn't get billed for gas for 6 months for some reason, and then it all showed up on 1 month in the following fiscal year. So occasionally there's glitches like that, and if departments want me to dig into those things, I dig into them, but I don't really try to do that level of analysis on all those buildings because it's very time consuming, and I think my time is usually better used elsewhere. But I will say this, for the school department, one of the reasons we have the school department in is to these meetings, and they're well attended by the people I mentioned, is they have a really good team, a facilities team and a team that keeps their energy data. Like Sean Mannion's office does an excellent job keeping data. So when they see these types of charts that show increases in schools, they have a really good ability to follow up and see what the reasoning is and what they can do about it. So so that's one of I think the most important things that come out of these annual meetings that conclude the school department.
And you mentioned the Auburndale Library, which has gone up 493, almost 500% in its electrical use, and that we have electrified that to a large extent. My question is, do you know, or where could we find the information on whether the electrified use is costing us more money or less money than the gas or oil that we were using before?
Yeah, I actually did a little study on that. I think I included it in last year's report, but I didn't include it in this year's report. But basically, energy cost numbers have changed wildly over the last 2 years, but using the numbers that from 2 years ago, I guess, when I did that report, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that it costs slightly less for the electricity than it would have to remain on oil plus the electricity bill that would have existed. So it was better than break even under the data that I had available on the energy prices that existed a couple of years ago. But I'd be glad to try to find that slide and send it to if you'd like.
That's great news. I'm pleased that the number is down, and it would be an interesting number to know and understand just how much it did go down.
I can send you that.
How many total chargers do we have now in the city?
I think it's I've put in 19 under on the projects I've done, and Nicole Friedman was putting in some. I think she's put in maybe 6. I'd have to go, but I have some information on that. So I think we're in the neighborhood of 25 or 26.
And
Yeah.
the chargers that were put in front of War Memorial Auditorium that were put in at no charge by Eversource. Is Eversource still offering that freebie? Of course, they're going to reap the benefit because we're going to be buying electricity from them. But are they still offering that?
Yes, they are. In fact, they did the library charges. They put in a service there, which I did in conjunction with our solar project. And they did North High School for us as well. And I've actually just sent an application in to them to do some more charges. We want to put in charges at the Elliott Street DPW for those new RAV4 primes I mentioned, to make sure they're plugging them in and not just driving them around gasoline. So yeah, so they just actually got approval for a big increase in their EV budget from the DPU. So there's quite a bit of money available through them to continue with this.
Good, and I would suggest that we take full advantage of getting these things installed because they're expensive to put in.
Yeah.
And we're going to need a lot of them if we continue, hopefully, to get 100% of our fleet converted over by whatever year, 2030.
Yeah.
Let's get them all in. One last question that I have is the Pleasant Street project, putting the solar into Pleasant Street. I noticed that next to it was the date 6/13/23, which is last week. What is going on there, and do we have a start date on that?
6/13/23. That's when we got the SMART application approved. So that's just like the very beginning of the process. That means that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is willing to give us a solar incentive for that project. I think that is one of the projects that we're trying, that Amoresco, right? That's an Amoresco project, I think, yeah. They told me today they think they're gonna be able to start construction sometime in the first quarter of next calendar year.
Great to know. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Councillor Norton, followed by Councillor Crossley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Bill, for the comprehensive update. Really, really helpful. I had a few questions. We buy RECs. Do we buy Class 1 RECs?
Yes.
Okay. And so the city is 10% above the state standard. Why don't we match what we have our residents and small businesses doing?
I think partly because I would say two main reasons for that. One is we're generating a lot of electricity through our solar projects. So that's kind of a rationale for, we're doing, I think we're doing something better than buying RECs when we do that. We're actually making a commitment to generate power and put it into the grid. And the other thing is, and we've, the mayor's talked to us about this, and we talk about it in the context of Newton Power Choice too. It's that if the city has to pay $80,000 for 2,100 RECs, and we actually need to buy, I guess it would be something like 14,000 RECs, I guess we need, or something on that order. That's just a ton of money. It's like over $1 million to buy RECs. So the question is, are we better off putting that into some other sustainability effort other than you buy Recs and they don't accomplish anything really. They last a year and they're gone, and you buy another $1 million worth of Recs. They last a year and they're gone. Wouldn't it be better to put money that we would spend on Recs into higher priority areas for the facility, for the city's sustainability efforts? That's the discussion we've had with the mayor. And I think when this contract runs out, this rec contract, we plan on having that discussion. The mayor wants to have that discussion with the Energy Commission. So John is the first one from the Energy Commission to hear about this, but that is the mayor's plan, to talk to the Energy Commission about what's the smartest way to use, X number of dollars. Is it to buy Recs or is it to do something else? So that's
And we buy Recs, why couldn't we just contract or include the city as part of the municipal aggregation contract?
because it costs a lot of money.
Okay, so it's a financial,
we're
yeah, it's
paying-
not a criticism. I just was looking for.
No,
clarification.
I'm just saying, we're paying, we could, but we're paying, I guess it's actually 9.4 cents for electricity now, plus plus 80,000 a year for Recs. If we bought from Newton Power Choice, I think it would cost us something like, it would cost us about $800,000 more.
Okay, because it's like 14 cents or something. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's like 14 cents for under the existing contract. So whatever that's 4 cents times 20 million kilowatt hours. So
Okay.
that's $800,000 more if we were to buy our electricity through Newton Power Choice. So it gets back to the question, is that the best way to use $800,000?
Yeah, no, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my last one was, I remember distinctly the conversation that Counselor Leary and I had with Ms. Berwick about Albemarle. And we both at that time felt strongly, I'll let her speak for herself now, that that is not an appropriate location. And the more that I learn, and we all learn about the increased risk of flooding there, I really strongly would encourage us to stay away from that site for more solar installations and focus on that area for more stormwater mitigation and green stormwater infrastructure and installations instead. And I know that that is what the plan is, because we were just hearing about it and we'd heard about it at an earlier meeting about the master plan for the park. So just wanted to put my little flag in again.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we respect everyone's input on that, and it's it's not going to be my decision, but I will say this: there's ways to include water management in solar canopies if we wanted to look at that option too. So that's another.
There's so much, I mean, so I just think that we should be focusing on the flooding in particular and not, but I was disappointed that Auburndale Cove, that it was taken off. I think we're seeing that in our parking lots that we can have solar and, people get used to how it looks. And to me, it does make sense in pure parking lot locations. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, don't the libraries canopies, they do manage stormwater runoff, don't they?
No.
I thought they captured some of it.
No, we didn't. We left that up to DPW to figure out how to do that when they, redesigned and repaved. And I think they put like pervious asphalt in there and some other.
They did,
some other stormwater designs in there. So.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Crossley, followed by Councillor Gentile.
Thank you. I'm so happy that we've had this update today. Bill, I don't know what we'd do without you. You are managing a lot of information on a lot of different municipal projects and properties.
Thank you, and I'm doing it in my spare time.
Yeah, I
'Cause
bet.
I'm spending a lot of time on Birdo now.
I know you spend full time on Birdo and then you do the rest of your job pro
Yeah.
bono, it sounds like. Anyway, a series of questions. So with the EV charging that the city has expanded, and so we're paying 305% more electricity on EV charging.
Mhm.
That's for municipal purposes. It's municipal vehicles. And so do you have data on the reduction in gasoline costs comparable to that?
Uh,
I don't have to have it now, but
yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm sort of, we can get a ton of data out of these, charge point, charging stations, and the data's there. And actually, Nicole was going to be in charge of capturing that data, so I know Councilor Gentile said she's still around, but she's not around to do that, I guess,
she's
because
just doing grant writing, I think.
yeah, so that's kind of a hole that we have. I can see if I can get some help from somebody to try to put that type of report together.
It'd be interesting to see how much less gasoline we're using.
Yeah,
while we're
yeah.
using more electricity for vehicles.
Yeah, I'll have to see, yeah, I'll have to see what kind of data that we have on that, because I know that, like at War Memorial, those are, a lot of city vehicles use that, but it's also available for public use. So I'm not sure if we can separate the data, the public data from the fleet data. I'll have to try to figure that out.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
put some stuff on the table. The Auburndale Library also went up an extraordinary percent, over 400% in electricity use, as I remembered your chart.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what's going on there? It's a small building, but what
Yeah.
happened?
We're not heating with oil anymore. We totally removed the steam boiler, and we're totally heating that building year round with air source heat pumps.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's been, we converted that, I don't know, maybe 3 years. We might have been through 3 winters.
I did not remember that. My bad.
Mhm.
And can you remind me what the new system is for the Newton Free Library? And I know we've committed to it, but can you remind, I thought it was.
I think it's going to be a reverse chiller, but I'm actually meeting with, yeah, I'm meeting with the consultant on that tomorrow. And I'm gonna find out how he's doing on preparing that study and specs and what kind of equipment he's recommending. And I think Josh has already got some cost information out of him, but I'm trying to get more detail about exactly what kind of equipment he's recommending. But it's going to be basically a reverse chiller, they call it. So it'll heat and cool the building electrically and get us off of fossil fuels there.
Okay, so it is an all-electric system. I know we need it. I know the system's failing. I continue to be concerned about the over 30-year-old building now that is, of course, it's not up to today's codes, but it's, I think it needs an analysis and some retrofit on the building envelope so that we're not just, paying hand over foot for electricity unless we change the system.
Yeah, I'll talk to the consultant about that tomorrow too.
Good, okay, I'm happy to hear that. The $3 million in savings in the city contract, is that a 1-year savings or over the several years of the contract?
That's 1 year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's just because rates. I mean, we save every year compared to Eversource, but last year was crazy with
Yeah.
both electric and gas rates. So it was just interesting to see. It's kind of like, boy, you know, good thing we have this contract because usually we save quite a bit, but to
Okay,
save 3 million is huge.
so to go to 9 cents, from 9 cents to 14 cents, though, that's gonna add 50% to the
Yeah.
cost of the contract. That's huge, and that's something obviously I know you're concerned about.
Yeah.
So the solar is back on track. Do you have a time frame for getting all these new systems from phase 3 actually online and working? Because what I remember is that, you know, currently everything that's online and working is providing about 30% of the electrical need of the city. And
Right.
I thought I remembered is that once we complete the rest of it, we're up to 40%.
That's right. And I think, you know, what Amoresco told me today was they're going to start construction. They're planning to start construction the first quarter of next year. So, you know, and once they start, I mean, it doesn't take that long to build. Even the canopies don't take that long to build. It's really, everybody's sick of hearing this, but it's still a supply chain thing. For canopies, it's the steel, you know, and then at the other end, honestly, it took Eversource months to connect Lowell Ave. That was built and ready to go for months before Eversource connected it to the grid. So, so the easiest part of this is actually seems to be actually building them. It's the planning them and the connecting them that seems to be the hardest parts. So.
Well, I know what's going on with the supply chain, and it is extremely frustrating, and it's slowing down a lot of construction projects. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take to resolve, but you know, the pandemic did have its impacts, and we are still suffering them. We will get through it, but time is our enemy. So I just want to say the grants and rebates that you're tracking, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and just thank you. It's like over $4.5 million in grants and rebates.
Yeah.
It's very impressive, and thank you so much. And that's,
I like to enter those onto my spreadsheet. I keep a spreadsheet with all of that stuff. So.
and it's great. And this is the kind of data tracking that, you know, frankly, I'd like to see in the stormwater arena, right? You know, so that we've got the data organized, and it's so easy to follow your data and, you know, where we've been and where we're going. And it's terrific to be able to see this and understand. You know, we made tremendous progress since 2008, even though, well, 2008 was the base year. We started all this in 2010, but even though the goal of the Green Communities program was to reduce municipal energy consumption by 20% in 5 years.
Right.
That was the charge we were given.
Yeah.
You know, sure. And we gave them a plan and showed them how we could do that, right? We just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So
and now, I mean, to some degree, it's a good thing. Yeah, good thing we didn't stop putting in high efficiency gas boilers over the last 10
yeah,
years.
no kidding. Well, we did in 2008 because remember I forget what that program was called, but there was a program that the federal government put forward, and we did change out a lot of boilers using that federal money. And, you know, now they're 30-year boilers, and it is what existed at the time to start wasting fuel.
Yeah,
I
it was the right move at the time. It's the easiest way to meet the goal is to reduce your fossil fuel use, actually.
Right, but the number of deep energy, we did one deep energy retrofit on a municipal building at Lower Falls. We haven't done that since, and that's really the hard nut to crack.
Yeah, it is.
But thank you so much for all of this. It's
Yeah.
very
You're
impressive and very well organized. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure doing the work for the city.
Okay, I'll recognize Councillor Gentile.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
We can, yes. Mhm.
So, first, I just want to say it's good to see that the projects are back, moving forward, and I'm pleased to see that Amoresco was playing a prominent role, because as far as I'm concerned and know, they have an excellent track record with us.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make one comment. It was nice that Councillor Norton was able to defend her ward in Albemarle. I would like to do the same thing for mine. The Auburndale Cove was totally vetted the last time that it was proposed. There was a lot of discussion. There was a tremendous amount of opposition to putting solar down in that parking lot. And it wasn't just aesthetics, but the important thing that I would ask that the administration keep in mind was that it was unanimously opposed. And I'm sure you remember this, Bill, that it was, I believe it was under the final decision rests with the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Right.
And they, I believe, voted unanimously to not support putting solar down in the parking lot. And I
Yes.
think it's extremely important that that decision be respected and honored, and that I understand you are reconsidering, but I hope that when you reconsider, that you will see good reason not to reintroduce this, which will do nothing but stir up, another strong amount of neighborhood opposition,
Mhm.
and it'll be divisive.
Yes.
And we've got plenty of other projects going on. And, we have plenty of places right now to do things. And I would ask that we not go back and revisit this, because it's gonna get everybody upset. They're upset with a couple of things that are going on down there right now with outside groups and parking and all of that. And I just don't see why we need to go back and just get everybody all re-aggravated and re-energized. Just respect the last decision. And again, Parks and Rec, not just, it was unanimous vote. So
Right.
please keep that in mind as you, think about the site, and appreciate your work. And that's the only comment that I wanted to make.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I was the one that attended that Parks and Rec meeting. And yes, as I recall, it was a unanimous vote against that. So I'll make sure that the mayor knows that when we're, and also is aware of Councilor Norton's comments when we put together our phase 4 list.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I'm going to go to Councillor Kalis, who hasn't spoken yet, and then I'm going to recognize Councillor Norton again.
Quick question, Bill, and thanks for the presentation. The solar panels on Countryside, can those be reused?
I haven't put a lot of thought into that. I put some thought into it. I don't I don't know. I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm gonna have, that was a project done by Amoresco, and they sold it to a company called Palo Verde, and who we do business with now. But I'm gonna have to ask them about that. Because if we don't reuse them, I think technically they can be, whether it makes sense, cost-wise, to take them down and put them back up on another building. When, I mean, here's the thing that comes to mind for me is we've got panels now that are far more efficient than those panels. I mean, they were the state of the art in 2013 when they were put up, but panels are a lot more efficient. So I think we're gonna have to probably figure out a way to work with the company that has the contract now and see if we can put panels on a new school with higher efficiency, state-of-the-art panels. I think that's probably what we're gonna have to figure out how to do there.
Right. I just wanted to ask, given the new school, maybe you put them on Facebook Marketplace or something.
Yeah, well,
They'll have value.
but maybe, I don't know. I'll ask around. I'll ask Amoresco and some of the other experts we deal with.
Thank you.
Counselor Norton?
Yeah, just a quick response to Counselor Gentile. I wasn't at the Albemarle meeting, and so if for whatever reason, it shouldn't go there. I just meant in general, I think parking lots are good, and it wasn't about my ward. There are several ones in Ward 2 at parking lots that I supported. I believe the library is technically Ward 2, the Newton North, and I think the Ed Center is still coming. So I strongly supported all of those, and I would support additional parking lots in Ward 2. It's really that particular location at Albemarle has the flooding component.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
Right. On that point, Bill, actually I think the city has done a great job with solar over paved spaces, where I think it largely belongs. And there's a bill now at the House Bill 3677, which would require rooftop solar on all new buildings. I think that was Mike Connolly, the representative from Cambridge, just had tweeted out that he was giving testimony in favor of that. And I was wondering just what the city is doing or plans to do to encourage more rooftop solar on private buildings. And I don't necessarily expect you to answer it now, but if you have some ideas.
I do. I mean, I believe Watertown has an ordinance that requires that. And we looked at it, and we started to do some work on trying to, I guess, rewrite their ordinance, for the city of Newton. And I think we kind of lost our way on it. We should
It might be a good time to revisit that.
We should revisit it. I'm a big believer in putting solar on as many buildings as we can, as opposed to, I mean, it's more cost effective to put solar on roofs than on parking lots. So, I mean, and we're encouraging building owners now, and maybe requiring them soon, to electrify. And I really feel like if we're going to require them to increase their electricity use, we should also require them to produce a little of their own electricity while they're doing it. So I think it all makes sense. So I'll talk to Ann about that Watertown ordinance again, because she started looking at it, and she's got a lot of ordinance type stuff on her plate lately.
Maybe we could discuss that at a zoning and planning meeting, because it might fit in that with when we're talking about new zoning rules and solar issues as another way to improve our sustainability.
Yeah.
And then I guess my final comment or point would be as we are electrifying more and more buildings, and the point of the Auburndale Library, which is obviously the electricity costs went up because it's not using any fossil fuels, but we have to make sure that our electricity is coming from renewable sources. I mean, that becomes more and more important. So I think it would be important to really have a clear values on how much of our, you know, our electricity is either generated by our own solar, which we know, and the rest of it, where that is coming from, and if it's truly coming from renewable sources. And of course, we're looking forward to the time when we will have all that wind power up off our shores, but that is not yet up and ready, but we are expecting it to happen. But still, you know, it doesn't do any good to electrify something if it's fossil fuels are being used to produce the electricity. That's always what the critics say, and I'm always wary of that a little bit, because, you know, we're in a transition period right now.
We are, and we're trying to help the transition by building as many solar projects on our city property as we can, because you make a good point. I mean, it's not just about electrifying. We got to make sure the grid gets green while we're doing that, or it doesn't work.
And that we're building this efficiently as possible as well, so we're using much less energy to begin with.
Exactly.
So I don't see any more hands up. So, and it's getting to be close to 10 o'clock. I think it's time to wrap it up. So could I entertain a motion to hold on this item?
Motion to hold.
Okay, a motion to hold from Councilor Norton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any nays? Okay, that's unanimous. Oh, thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you very much, Bill, for your good work.
Aye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.